Morning. Let's pray. Father God, thank you for this day. Thank you for the provision on our lives.
Thank you, Father.
We just ask that you come into this place and invade our hearts, our minds, and our spirits, and open us up to what it is that you have for us today, Lord. We pray that in Jesus' holy name. Amen. Okay. I want to see some hands this morning. How many have more than one sibling? Right? Maybe a younger brother, younger sister, or something like that. Families are dysfunctional. I don't think I've ever heard of a family that wasn't dysfunctional. Okay? Now, me personally, I had a younger sister. And you guys, most of you guys know my story. My childhood was very, very bad. Okay? My younger sister seemed to get all of the attention. And it stands to reason. She was the baby. She needed the attention. But she was also like a brat. You know? Me and my older sister, we were a little more grown than she was, and we were doing our own thing. And every time we did something that she didn't like, she went and told Mom and Dad. Right? And, got us in trouble. And so, unfortunately, now my sister is going to hear this, I'm sure. Are you recording? Tara, are you recording today?
Yeah. We record every Sunday.
Okay. Well, my younger sister is going to hear this, so I better smooth this out before I'm done. Don't let me get away without smoothing this out a little bit. But she was the brat, and she unfortunately, my older sister and I, we didn't treat her very well. And I'm sure that it added to some self-esteem issues. We tended to be a little rough on her. And I think that just fueled that fire of her going to Mom and Dad and telling every time we did something that we shouldn't have been doing. She was basically the tattletale, so me and my older sister, we weren't very nice to her. And, consequently, I think it played an integral part in her development. And I've tried to talk to her about it over the years and try to, let her know that I'm sorry for the way I acted. I look back at it, in hindsight, it's like, I probably didn't treat her too good, But that being said, she's her own person, and I'm pretty proud of her. She makes me look like an amateur redneck. I mean, that girl's got more deer than me. She caught a record catfish she caught like a 68-pound catfish on a 16-pound test. I'm like, okay, I'm not even going to try to keep up with that. She put me to shame. She can clean and gut a deer faster than I can. I mean, I'm an amateur next to her. And she actually goes and she does these competitions, shooting competitions, and she's very good. She's very good. So, what can you say? Anyway, we've been talking about unlikely heroes, and the hero for today, all right, is that guy. He's that brat. He's that tattletale. He's the one, right, that pissed off his brothers so bad that they wanted to get rid of him. When you're somebody's favorite, when you're daddy's favorite, you definitely don't want to rub people's noses in it, right? And if your parents are messed up enough to consider you a favorite, they're not doing you any favors because everybody's going to know it, okay? And unfortunately, that's going to put you in a bad category. That's going to put you in a bad light with your siblings. Like, oh, they're the favorite. Jealousy and, that's not fair. The unfairness of it all. So, parents aren't doing anybody any favors. Our Father in heaven, He does not play favorites. He loves each and every one of us, regardless of how much we messed up. I'm going to come back to that. But He was the favorite of many sons. His Father made it obvious to everyone that was the case. To make matters worse, when he was out with his brothers working, when he came home, he was ratting them out, telling Daddy they weren't doing a very good job. He was trashing them out, throwing them under the bus. So he made himself very unlikable. For those of you who don't know who I'm talking about, we're talking about Joseph today, the son of Israel, the son of Jacob. Israel and Jacob, by the way, are the same. After Jacob wrestled with the angel or the Lord, we're not exactly sure on what that was, but he wrestled with something way beyond his ability. And he walked away with a limp. His name was changed. The Lord said, your name is now Israel. We often jump to the good stuff, though. You know, when people talk about Joseph, when they preach about Joseph, they're talking about how not only did he save the Egyptian people, but he also saved his own people by what he did. And they jump right over the fact that he was a brat, he was a snitch, you know, he wasn't a very likable character. We do that all the time, like David, for instance. You know, a man after God's own heart. But we leave out the fact that he was a murderer and an adulterer. And we want to skip right to the good stuff. And we don't want to look at all the bad stuff that happened in these people's lives. And it's important to look at this stuff and remember this stuff. You know, because we all, way too often, it's like, okay, God, how can you use me? You know, I'm a piece of dirt. You know, I've done everything I could possibly do wrong. I've been a brat, I've been a snitch, whatever. I wasn't really a brat or a snitch, but you guys know my story, and I wasn't a very good person either. You know, now with regards to David, you know, God sent his prophet Nathan and said, you know what? Your sins are covered. Your sins are forgiven. Anyway, the point is Joseph was definitely a punk. He was not a very likable character, and it brought him some trouble. Now, if you look up here, Genesis 37:2, we're going to have to clean this thing off. I think we got too much stuff up here. Or I should clean it off. I guess that's probably my desk, right? Is that right? This is the account of Jacob's family line. Joseph, a young man of 17, was tending the flocks of his brother with his brothers, and the sons of Bilhah and the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives, and he brought their father a bad report about them. It goes on and it gets worse. Joseph had a dream, and when he told his brothers, they hated him all the more. He said to them, listen to the dream I had. We are binding sheaves of grain out in the field, and when suddenly a sheaf rose and stood upright, while yours gathering around mine and bowed down to it. This is as plain as day, Daddy's favorite, the favorite of Israel. He wasn't doing anybody any favors by, announcing that this is my favorite son, giving them the coat of many colors, and showing favoritism. And Joseph has this dream, and it's a God-inspired dream. God gives him that dream and shows him, this is what's going to happen. Now, Joseph probably should have been a little smarter and kept his mouth shut. Think about it. By the time he's had this dream, he's already pissed off his brothers in many ways. And when you piss somebody off, you know it, right? When your siblings are angry with you, you know it. They're not going to treat you the way you think you should be treated. And if you think about it, way back then, this is a patriarchal society. Right? The eldest male of the family is the leader. It's his position, it's his responsibility to show his brothers and his family how to act. Now, like for me, for instance, I am now the patriarch of my family. My uncles, my father, my grandparents, they're all gone. I'm the oldest male in my family, which makes me, supposedly the leader in my family. Now, my sister's there not listening to me. And that's fine. That's fine. My kids don't listen to me. All right, take your arms, go ahead. It is what it is. But back then, this was serious stuff. If you were living upright, then you were going to follow the leader of your family. And here's the youngest telling them, you guys are going to bow down to me. What do you think about the impact that had? He had another dream. Uh-oh. He had another dream. And it was about the sun and the moon and the 12 stars bowing down to him. And he told this to his brothers. And this just enraged him even further, because not only is he saying that his brothers are going to bow down to him, but his father's going to bow down to him. And that's sacrilege. We have to look at it in the context of the time. And that's just rubbing salt in the wound. They're already fed up with this guy, and he's just pounding salt into that wound. It's like, you guys ain't nothing, you know, you're gonna bow down to me. His brother said to him, do you intend to reign over us? Will you actually rule us? And they hated him all the more because of his dream and what he had said. This is the other dream. Genesis 37:9. Then he had another dream, and he told his brothers, listen, he said, I had another dream, and this time the sun and the moon and the 11 stars, I said 12, were bowing down to me. This dream was even more antagonistic. You know, like I said, your daddy's going to bow down to you? I don't know about y'all, but even in this day and age, my father would have never bowed down to me. My father was the youngest sibling, by the way, and his brothers, they had a lot of respect for him. My father was one of the meanest men I've ever met. He messed me up pretty bad, but he was one of the toughest guys I ever met. His younger brothers used to send him out to start fights with other people. And this was groups of people. Sometimes they would jump in and help him. Sometimes they would not. What happened was they made him so tough they couldn't deal with him. So they kind of made their own. They made their own bed and they had to sleep in it. They basically didn't want to mess with him after that. That's pretty arrogant to say that your parents are going to be bowing down to you and your older brothers. And so he basically put himself in a position where they were plotting to kill him. Now, fortunately, Reuben, his older brother, the oldest brother, the actual one that was supposed to be the leader, he's like, no, we can't kill him. That's not right. And, he basically said, let's just throw him in the pit. And they did this whole thing. They slaughtered a goat. They dipped his coat in the blood, and they took it to Dad. And Dad's like, oh, my son, he's been killed by wild animals. They did a pretty good cover-up of this, and they sold him into slavery. They sold him to a Midianite merchant who took him to Egypt. The merchant sold him to Potiphar. Potiphar was captain of the guard of Egypt. Very, very powerful man. And he was made a slave in this man's house. Now, think about this for a minute. All of the stuff that he did, he brought this on himself. If he had kept quiet and maybe, no, Dad, why don't you look at Reuben as your favorite son? He's the oldest, whatever. He did absolutely nothing to smooth this over, and he made his bed, and he ended up sleeping in it. So now we're going to get into the meat of why he's an unlikely hero. This is one of the things that I see. It spoke to me the first time I read it, and it speaks to me every time. Everything that we read about Joseph in the story, the Lord is credited with his success. And I want you to follow along with me on this for a minute. Who are you giving credit to? Right? Last week, I stood on this very stage, and I said, I've been beaten since I've taken this position. I didn't give credit to the devil. I didn't mention the devil at all. I said, I've been beaten. Okay? Way too often, and I'm not pointing anybody out here. I'm not pointing anybody out, but I've heard us all say it. I've said it at one time or another. The enemy's beating me up. All right? The enemy is wailing on me. Every part of the story, the Lord is given credit for Joseph's success. You don't hear how the enemy sent him to prison. The enemy put him into slavery. You hear about the Lord's making him successful. The Lord was with Joseph so that he prospered, and he lived in the house of his Egyptian master. When his master saw the Lord was with him, how would he know that the Lord was with him unless he professed that the Lord was with him? This was an Egyptian. He believed in completely different gods. It's very unlikely that he saw God or saw God's hand in what was happening to Joseph unless he proclaimed it. The Lord gave him success in everything he did. Joseph found favor in the eyes. Joseph found favor in his eyes and became his attendant. Potiphar put him in charge of his household, and he entrusted him with the care of everything that he owned. That's powerful. If you think about this, this is a powerful man in Egypt, and he put a slave in charge of his household. He said, you're going to take care of everything, and you're going to watch over it. Now, he was becoming an adult during this period of his life. He was growing up, and he was learning a lot, and he was becoming what God had told him he was going to be, but he wasn't done getting polished and pruned and tested and made who he was supposed to be. Potiphar's wife was like Craig, all right? Craig, all right? And she wanted him. She saw him, she lusted after him, and she said, I want this man. And he's like, no, I can't do that. I'm in charge of this man's household. He trusted me. He was trying to do the right thing. And one day, she wasn't taking no for an answer, and she grabbed his cloak, and he ran out and left his cloak behind, and there was proof. She went to her husband and said, this man tried to sleep with me, and he escaped. He was falsely accused. Joseph's master took him and put him in prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined. But while Joseph was there in prison, the Lord was with him. Right? He showed him kindness and granted him favor in the eyes of the prison warden. Again, the Lord was with him. So the warden put Joseph in charge of all those held in prison, and he was made responsible for all that was done there. The warden paid no attention to anything under Joseph's care because the Lord was with him, and gave him success in whatever he did. Excuse me, I'm sorry. It's a little bit small, Tara. The old man's having a hard time seeing it. My bad, not yours. I'm getting old. Might need to upgrade the glasses. So think about that for a minute, though. The Lord was with him, and these people were seeing that the Lord was with him. And these are Egyptians, and they did not believe in our God. So what was he professing? Was he saying, oh God, the devil put me in jail? Or was he saying, you know what, God's put me here, but he's provided for me, and he's given me avenues to encourage and show, right? I promise you this, if they're seeing this, then he's professing this. They don't believe in our gods, they don't believe in our God, excuse me, let me take that S off there. We have our God.
Amen.
So the story goes on. He interpreted some dreams for two prisoners. One of them was brought back into the Pharaoh's service. The other one was executed. He saw both of these dreams were interpreted by him for these two individuals, and they got 100% right. Now, the cupbearer was taken back to the palace and was back in the service of Pharaoh. And then the baker, unfortunately, he was executed. Cupbearer was supposed to tell Pharaoh about this man and told him, what was going on, and he forgot until Pharaoh had the dream. When Pharaoh had a dream, the cupbearer remembered. And he says, I know a man who can do this. And when he was brought before the Pharaoh, this is what he said, I cannot do it. Joseph replied to Pharaoh, but God will give Pharaoh the answer he desires. He's giving the Lord the credit. He's not sitting there whining about being in prison. We've all done this. I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. I'm trying to inspire you to start thinking differently. That's my job. That's what I'm up here to do. Then Joseph said to Pharaoh, the dreams of Pharaoh are one and the same. God has revealed to Pharaoh what he is about to do. God has revealed to Pharaoh. Not I interpreted your dream. I revealed to you. God did. He gave God the credit in everything. Now, you all pretty much know the story, right? 7 fat years, 7 lean years. They had all of this prosperity, and they were growing food like crazy, and they stored it up because they knew there was a famine. Because Joseph explained the dream to Pharaoh. And so they were prepared for this. And in all of that, he gave God credit. Later on, when his brothers finally come around, because they're starving to death too, he's going to have some fun with them first. But after all the fun he has with them, sending them back and forth, and yanking their chains, this is what he told them. "For God sent me ahead of you to preserve for you a remnant on earth, a remnant on earth, a remnant on earth." I have one of my brothers from the club today here. It's very exciting to see him. I don't get to see him enough. Say that, Mikey. Say hi to everybody. This is a remnant on earth right here. Yeah, really good to see you, brother. Anyway, remnant on earth and save your lives by great deliverance. So then it was not you who sent me, but God. He made me father to Pharaoh, lord to the entire household, and the ruler of all Egypt. God made me that. Right? He wasn't whining about God sending me to prison. He wasn't whining about God making me a slave. The Lord is given credit in all of Joseph's success. There's nothing in that story that says the enemy attacked me. In a land that wasn't his own, in a land with other gods, our God, our Lord, was given credit for Joseph's success. Think about that. I got a little joke for you I'm going to tell you. Think about this one for a minute. You may have heard this. There's this bird and he's flying south and it starts snowing and he freezes and he falls to the ground. Okay? He's laying in the middle of this big field and he's freezing to death. Okay? Well, a cow comes along and poops on him. Buries him in poop. Okay? And he starts to warm up and he starts to revive. He was this close to death and the cow pooped on him. And the poop warmed him up enough so he could survive. Alright? Well, he starts getting warm, and he starts feeling better, and he starts singing. He's in the poop, and he's warm, and he's singing. Well, this cat hears him singing, comes along and digs him out of the poop and eats him. So I want you to think about this, but here's the moral of the story. Okay? Not everybody that poops on you is your enemy. Not everybody that digs you out of the poop is your friend. And if you're buried in poop, you might want to keep your mouth shut. Just say it. So there was times where Joseph should have. There's times where Joseph should have shut up and just kept his mouth. Like when the Lord tells us something, and I got a little taste of that this actually over the last 2 weeks. The Lord's given me a vision for certain things that are to come next, and I'm not supposed to speak about it, and I won't. Okay? Sometimes what God gives us is for us. Okay? Joseph shouldn't have been antagonistic to his brothers, but at the same time, if he hadn't gone through everything he went through, he wouldn't have been who he was. None of us would be. Right? Sometimes we've got to get beat up a little bit to grow up. Everything works out in God's perfect timing, in God's perfect way. He knows much better than we do what we need. We run around day to day, every minute of every day, thinking we know what we need, thinking we know what we want, and we ain't got a clue. Right? Every time we think we've got something figured out, be careful what you pray for. You might get it. Right? Seriously, there's a reason for that saying. Joseph had some growing up to do, and I'm sure being a slave and being a prisoner. Now, I'm not going to point any fingers, but I'm sure there's a few of us in here that have been in prison, all right? Or at least been in jail for a short time. And now, it's much better than it was in that day and age, but still, if you had something extra, when you're in prison, you put it back and you hold on to it. And I guarantee you that's where Joseph started learning to hold on to things. Slaves were not necessarily fed every day, so if they had extra, they held on to it. I guarantee you, everything that he went through brought him to the point where he learned to do what he did to save not just one nation, but multiple nations. The thing that stands out the most for me in this story is, the fact that Potiphar and the warden and the Pharaoh were knowing that God was with him. Even though they didn't believe in our God, they knew that our God was with Joseph. If he was whining about the enemy all the time, would they have known that God was with him? Who are you going to give credit to? God or the devil? Who here has read Job? Have you read Job? Right? Devil's got to ask permission to do anything to you. He does not have carte blanche. He can't just walk around beating you for no reason. So if he's doing something to you, it's because God allowed it. And if God allowed it, either there's something that you need to learn, or there's something that somebody around you needs to learn. Sometimes we need to learn, we need to grow in strength and perseverance. Sometimes the people around us need to see our strength and our perseverance in our trials. Have you ever seen somebody when things are falling apart and they just walk through it like it's not even happening? Right? You think about that. I've been on both sides of that. I've been that light and I've seen that light. Like I said last week, I've been beaten up here. I've taken some lumps I wasn't expecting when I took on this position. It's been difficult. And all I can say is, I had some growing up to do, I guess. And I got more to do. I had to learn some more perseverance. I had to learn some more faith. This past week, I started trying to do seminary again. I found a resource. And I went back, and I'm trying to go back to school. It's been, of course, you start, okay, I'm going to do this class this week, this class, this. I didn't get half the classes done that I wanted to, but I got some classes done this week. And one of the first things that I've had preaching classes and stuff, but one of the first ones I signed up for was preaching, Spirit-filled preaching. And the first thing the guy says, you'll never be a better preacher than you are a Christ follower. Okay. And I look back and I'm like, okay, well, yeah, I can see where that day I wasn't really on my best game. And you know what? This day I could have done a little better. Or this day I was on fire. And I look back and I was like, what? I did my devotional every day that week. I read several chapters of the Bible. I studied. I want you to think about this. This is a scripture I did not get a slide made on. I want you to think about this. James 1, 2 through 4. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance, let me look up so I can speak. Let perseverance finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete and not lacking anything. Think about what God wants from you. Put other people's needs in front of your own. Like with Joseph. Instead of being all about, hey, you know what, you guys are going to bow down to me. He probably could have done that a whole lot differently. Now, he had some growing up to do, and God's perfect plan will work itself out in His time. Let's think less about ourselves. Let's think about the people around us. How we respond to what's going on around us is that light on that lampstand. Right? If we can walk through the trials of life and keep our head up and say, you know what, God's got it, think about what that does for other people. If you can walk through something, keep your head up, keep a good attitude, be nice to people, regardless of what you're going through, that speaks volumes. You don't have to beat somebody over the head with the Bible if you can walk through stuff without getting beat down. Maybe we wouldn't have to learn the hard way. Lessons will be repeated as many times as necessary until we get it. God is a righteous Father, and He's not going to let us walk incomplete. So learn from trials. How many times have I told you, be as wise as a serpent, as harmless as a dove? Let's think about this, okay? In every season, right? There's going to be good, there's going to be bad. Part of the reason we had to learn about Joseph, since 7 fat years, 7 lean years, and people grew out of that. It wasn't just Joseph. God was giving credit in everything he did, and they saw what he did, and they understood what he did because he was given the credit was due. Okay, and we need to do the same thing. Now, if you're feeling like you're getting beat up and you can't give God the glory, if you can't look and say, you know what, Lord, obviously I'm not where I need to be, I haven't matured, I haven't reached that level of perseverance, I want to pray for you right now.